Studio production begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Community Foundation Spotlight. I'm Erica Joseph, the president at the Community Foundation, and I am thrilled to have our guest today, Dina Karpf, who's with the Maryland's Commitment to Veterans. One of the most wonderful things about working at the Community Foundation is that we get to meet amazing people working with amazing organizations that are working so hard for the benefit of the community. And that's how I feel about our involvement in the Lower Shore Veterans Network and, connecting to you. So thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit, I know, it's always on the news that there are, veterans, especially now, coming home. There are veterans in the community who have been part of, previous conflicts and served over many different decades and eras. And Maryland's Commitment to Veterans is here for them. Talk a little bit about what that organization is and what you do.
Well, Maryland's Commitment to Veterans was created in 2008 by Lieutenant Governor Brown, or former Lieutenant Governor Brown, who is a veteran himself. It was created mainly in concern for the returning Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. But we found that since the organization was created, we work with behavioral health and substance abuse issues, but we have veterans from all eras who contact us. The benefit of our program is that we have an 800 number, and a veteran can call that number. And thankfully, because we are working with all different types of issues, we're a bridge between working with the VA, community organizations, and any kind of individual who works with veterans. So to me, I see us as a one-stop shop to make that navigating a little bit easier for that veteran or their family members.
And you mentioned you have a 1-800 number that we can certainly put up on the screen, but if you want to give it out now for anybody who's listening.
Now, I have a tough time remembering it, but it's 1-877-770-4801.
Excellent. And so anybody in the community, whether they're a veteran or whether they're close to a veteran who they have a problem, they are looking for information on resources, they can contact that number and find out, who within that network of services and partners that you mentioned might be able to help.
Well, no, what will happen is when a veteran calls that number, the actual individual, they do speak to a human being, which is a wonderful benefit.
Excellent.
Will be able to take down just some brief information as to, if they are the veteran or a family member, their name, their contact information, what they are calling about, and oftentimes I'll ask where they were referred from, and then ask them to give any other information that's needed. So once they make that phone call, then that telephone representative will email the veteran or the representative who will actually work with them. I work with the Eastern region, so I have all 9 counties on the Eastern Shore, but we do have 3 other individuals who one covers Central Maryland, 1 Western, 1 Southern. So if a veteran calls and they're actually from Annapolis, then that person on the phone will be able to direct them to the regional resource coordinator in their area. And then once that email has come to us, then we reach out to the individual. And calling that 800 number is often a good thing because it gives us an opportunity to take a look at what they're looking for and be prepared to be able to help them and direct them if it's not something that we can handle ourselves directly.
I'm so glad you clarified that because I know for anyone, including myself, who's ever had a veteran in their family who's tried to navigate some of the other programs, you don't always get that person on the other end to help walk you through. So this is a resource right here in our state where anyone can call, ask questions, have a voice on the other end, and then after getting that basic information that you mentioned, then they would be referred to you if they're here on the 9 counties.
Yes.
So from that point, what happens once you connect with that individual or that family member, that veteran? What are some of examples of next steps, just to talk about the service and basically the case management that you help provide to them?
Well, usually what I do is, ask them, what's going on with their situation, because many times it's more than just one specific thing. So once I sit down and listen to what's going on, we'll go through the list of things that they've discussed with me, make a priority list. Oftentimes they could be homeless or on the verge of homelessness. So we know that making sure that they're housed is a key thing to do. One of the things that I really, really enjoy about the case management part of my job is that I don't just give them a phone number. I like to take the time to listen to what they have to say, make sure it's okay to give out their phone number, or if they would prefer to have the individual call, they call them themselves. I will oftentimes call the people who we need to connect them with. For instance, if it's someone who's calling and they're homeless, if I need to reach out to an SSVF, which is a services for veterans and their families, what I would do then is either reach out to St. James if they're in the St. James area, or for Diaconia, which is another group in the Lower Shore.
So 2 counties, so St. James, primarily, I know, to make it simple for viewers, so, you can connect them to local resources more in their service area to be convenient to them.
And what I like to do is try to talk to the caseworker prior. I get as much information as I can to make that handover a little bit easier on both parties. So they're not telling that story 5, 6, 7, 8 times to get help. But it also gives them an actual phone number, because oftentimes if you go on the internet, you can get lost in, names and phone numbers, or 800 services, you can get lost in that. And if they're aging veterans, oftentimes they may not have the computer services, nor would they have the patience to deal with the 800 numbers that they might have to go to. So I like to think that we make that a little bit easier for them.
And I think the benefit of this local response and having you as a resource there, I know our involvement at the Community Foundation with that, with the Lower Eastern Shore Veterans Network, it is a wonderful, diverse group of nonprofits and service providers that are all pulling together both local resources, some federal funding, state and regional resources, local donors. I mean, it's all of this coming together, and you all meet on a monthly basis at the foundation. And what I'm always struck with in your conversations is just how much personal assistance is provided to veterans who are in need of anything. Sometimes it's just a matter of information to get forms completed or to find out where something is in the process. But sometimes there are these very challenging crisis scenarios that you all are able to respond to.
Yes, that Lower Shore Veterans Network is, it's essential. I started this position in 2014, and had it not been for them, it's made my job a lot easier. It's been so much of an impact for me that in my territory, I've tried to continue on and create these types of networks in other regions or other counties that I work in. We have such a great, diverse group. You all at the foundation have been wonderful helping us. Heather has been amazing. The email networking that we have oftentimes helps us solve problems within minutes. People are able to put generic information about a need for a veteran, and the response is just phenomenal if you're in that group and you see how people are responding, and they respond so quickly. We've brought up many, many wonderful topics. Transportation, as a matter of fact, we just had someone from Delmarva Power meet with us because oftentimes electric bills are an issue, and we wanted to find a better way to navigate it. It's just incredible. The group just continues to astound me every month with the new information that we bring in, and we have so many diverse people who work with veterans that there's almost an issue that's not covered. It's just incredible. I love that group. And like you said, we meet the second Monday of every month from 10 to usually 11:30 to 12 at the foundation.
And you're watching Community Foundation Spotlight. We're talking with Dina Karpf from the Maryland's Commitment to Veterans. And what we're highlighting now, it's the Lower Shore Veterans Network started as a relatively small group of local service providers, shelters, behavioral health, food pantries, veterans organizations, transportation, who were talking about some of the common challenges they were seeing in trying to meet needs for local veterans. And it has grown to an organization now that meets, and I think it has 50 or so, if not more, members who consistently try to identify new partnerships, ways to better meet needs, better ways to communicate across the group here. And it's open. There are always new people coming to the table. And what's the easiest way if somebody's out there who thinks they would like to get involved in the network so that they can be part of that collaborative effort to better serve local veterans? How might they do that?
They can call the 800 number that I gave for my organization, or they can reach out to the Community Foundation. We're always looking for new people. We're always looking for new ways to get out and reach out to the veteran community. We oftentimes have veterans resource events. We're planning one for the spring that will be in Berlin. So if anyone's interested, they can call the 800 number. Being a vendor for that event is free. We have a great connection with the Mobile Vet Center, and they will also be attending that event. But I can't say enough. I mean, Lee and Jack Lewis and John Black, instrumental in getting this organization together. And like you said, we have 50 members, and at least 20 or more attend every month. And I'd like to see it continue to grow.
And I know that the group has also been extremely active in engaging the Eastern Shore delegation, for example.
Yes.
You know, communicating with elected officials, helping to sort of, you know, elevate the call for local veterans, you know, sort of be that voice. And I think the strength of the group, both in the number of organizations that are part of it, in the leadership that Maryland's Commitment to Veterans and the Community Foundation and so many others have been able to provide, you know, really helps to sort of give them that one place that they can go to every month for information on what the needs are right here in the community. You have been with Maryland's Commitment to Veterans, you said, since
2014.
And so how have you seen, you know, that's a relatively short period of time for many people, but how have you seen some of the needs change or things, you know, emerge that maybe you didn't see early on and now are more prevalent?
I really haven't seen much of a change. It's cyclical. We'll have a run of people who, you know, there'll be some homelessness or need rental assistance. You know, financial need is always, it's a consistent, it happens in all different ways. Covering the territory that I do, it's very difficult finding resources to help these individuals cover some of the things that they can't cover on their own. I think what we're seeing, transportation and lack of in our area, another very consistent need. But we have such wonderful transportation organizations that are working together to try to fill that gap. Steve Hohen from the Tri-County Transit goes out and fundraises on his own to be able to provide free rides for veterans, which is incredible. And then we have that connection from there to the Delmarva Community Transit, who work as hard as they can to find grants to fill that need. Then we also have a new organization that is working with Mr. And Mrs. Wharton from Cakes by David.
Right.
They've created a transportation network, and they work with the NAV vets from Berlin who have just really picked up. And I believe, from my understanding, they are driving almost 1,000 miles a week on vehicles who have several 100,000 miles on them already. So.
And so these are, you know, this has emerged out of that networking that's available now, so that people can see what's being met in the community, because you mentioned Shore Transit, you know, and Delmarva Community Services. Both of those organizations have resources available to help meet needs of veterans, and I know that both have been working really hard to try to find more resources for medical appointments or just general transportation needs. But then we also have so many other sort of small, and I know some are tied to faith-based organizations or small nonprofits, and that real-time communication on a need that might emerge, at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. Through your networking opportunity, you can, figure out how to get that veteran from point A to point B.
It makes the navigation process a lot easier. It does. It's incredible.
Now, what programs do you see, or what do you find that veterans don't know exists here that you can help to connect them to, that you'd like viewers to be aware of, just in case they come across that need in their day-to-day life?
Well, I think a lot of them aren't aware of our program. It is, the website is, if you go through the Maryland Veterans Affairs site, you can find us on there. But they don't realize that what we do and how we do it and how we can connect people. And I think that is, one of my number one things is getting out there and letting people know who I am, what I do, and how I can get them connected to services. And it's amazing, even the simplest things, because there are so many different organizations that offer so many different things. It's unbelievable, what they are unaware of, but it is very consuming for them to try to figure all that out. So it's great that we have created this. And when you spoke of the open house, I think one of the wonderful things that was provided by the foundation, but not only, by our group, was that we were able to create a resource folder that we provided to all the legislators, so that when someone called their office, they had that list of resources and would be able to give that information out. And having that, the local legislators at that meeting was phenomenal. One of our key people that attend or send someone to attend is Mary Beth Caruso, and she has just done amazing things for us. And with that, we had Delegate Johnny Mounts, who is up in the Talbot County area, and because of how well and excited he was about seeing what we did, that's what encouraged him to want us to get started on the Midshore, and Addie Eckhart has been a key person in that as well. So it's wonderful, and that's why I said it. I really try very hard to get our number out there, because again, if I can't help you, I will find someone or refer you to someone who can help you.
And for viewers who might be just joining us, I'm Erica Joseph with the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore, and I'm joined today on Community Foundation Spotlight by Dina Karpf, who's with Maryland's Commitment to Veterans. I'd like to ask you to give that number for viewers. I know our friends at PAC 14 will always put it up on the screen.
Thank you.
But if you could read it for us, just in case someone's within earshot, so that they would be able to get that.
Sure, it's 1-877-770-4801, and they can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we definitely try to get back to you within a 24-hour time frame, but make sure that you call that number if you have a need at any time.
And certainly for emergency situations, there's always emergency numbers to call, but for things that they're trying to navigate the system for veteran support or community support, that is going to get them to somebody, a real person, who will walk through what their needs are. And then if they're in any of the 9 counties here on the Eastern Shore, they're going to be referred to you, and you're going to be the one that follows up with them.
Correct.
Now, early on, I remember when the Lower Shore Veterans Network was just starting, and you were one of the first people at the table, along with a number of other folks that are still there today. This communication and information sharing, it's always a challenge, especially in a rural area. I remember your conversations around how to communicate the needs, resource guides, websites, phone numbers, emails. And it's a challenge that I think for so many needs in the community always exists, because here in a rural area where resources are always limited, I want viewers to recognize how hard nonprofits and government services, social services, health departments, schools, so many of them have to work together to collaborate with other people who have a different set of resources to meet, really significant needs here on the Lower Eastern Shore. And when we travel around the state, I know you probably see this, the question that we often get is, how do you all make that work? How do you get 50 different groups to come together on a regular basis and communicate and share resources and share information? And our response is always, because we have to do that. There's no other way for any one of us to do that. Has that been your experience, and why you think that it's such a interesting concept that wants to be spread around the other parts of the state?
Absolutely. Well, my counterparts are all across the bridge. So when we sit down together and they ask, they have organizations where you can take an individual and every need is met. Whereas for me, there are several different pieces to it. What we find, and I see this in every organization that I meet with, you cannot have that one focus. Where our program is set to focus mainly on behavioral health and substance abuse, you can't do that. And I won't do that. The veterans' needs are extremely important to me, and I feel as though one thing plays for another. So if you are about to be homeless, you cannot tell me that that doesn't affect your mood and how you feel. And it's important to me to make sure that you're not on the street. So when we work together, it's, every week there's a phone call from a different group that can meet one need, but they can't meet another. So we have to work together. And oftentimes we're sharing the funding as well. So we don't have that big, large sum of money that, would cover one group. So we have to make sure that what we have is spread out and able to help. So it's, again, like I said, it's one of the most phenomenal things about our organization. And mostly, and I would have to say, with working through the Lower Shore Veterans Network, when I'm working with people in the 3 counties of Worcester, Wycomico, and Somerset, there's not a week that goes by that I don't work with somebody from that group who, I talk to that's working with the veterans. So I know that I communicate with them all the time. And thankfully, we have some very active members who work for Veterans Affairs that attend the meetings too. And, we help them and they help us. And it's just an awesome group. And
we've had a lot of, I know that the response from, we've mentioned elected officials, but also, the city and the county, that, they'll come to the table and help us and help you when you see needs that need to be met. I've been really pleased to see that response from so many different groups to, trying to find solutions for challenges that local veterans are facing. Now, I know at Maryland's Commitment to Veterans, the focus is on veterans, but veterans have a tremendous amount of very positive impacts in the community. So often you are seeing some of the most challenging situations, but I know that you've also, through the network and then through your other experience, see veterans who are really leading the charge in the community and making such positive contributions. So I want to make sure that we also highlight that. It's not just about needs, it's also about all that they bring back to benefit and strengthen the community when they come home.
Absolutely. Well, one of the first people that comes to mind is Allison Poulcher, who is an active duty military spouse who does a run every year to benefit different organizations for veterans. Then we have, of course, the mayor of Salisbury is a veteran. Chris Eccleston, who is a businessman who makes sure he hires veterans. Those individuals really come out, showing the positive of what that military experience brings to the table. I think often too John Black is about to retire from the National Guard, and he works as a family service coordinator now. So he helps veterans. Mr. and Mrs. Wharton, they're both veterans, and they're working tirelessly to provide transportation. But on the other note, they also have a clothing ministry that provides clothing to children in schools, which people don't realize, and an active business at the same time. So I think one of the key things that I enjoy more than anything when I go out to speak to organizations that aren't veteran focused is I always like to ask the group if there are veterans there. I spoke to the Queen Anne's County Department of Social Services, and I think in the group of maybe 52 were veterans. But when I asked who had family members, almost the entire room has someone that they know that's a veteran that served our country. And it's just heartwarming to me to see that.
And that raises, we only have a few minutes of time left for this conversation, but I want to make sure that we highlight for viewers, so much of the connections and the relationships are driven by some of the family members. You know, you just mentioned in your example how many of us, you know, everybody's basically touched in some way by a veteran, and the positive and the challenges. And so for you, I know the Veterans Network, often the identification of a veteran in need comes from a family member.
Sometimes, yeah.
And so they're also encouraged to reach out to you. So it doesn't have to be just that veteran, that individual who, you know, might be struggling with, you know, getting something filed or paperwork getting approved or needing support services. It can be those wives, mothers, children, you know, anyone who sees that can reach out to you. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right.
And so we'd encourage that because it's just an opportunity for, you know, so much, so often you find that, you know, people don't necessarily want to ask for help or may feel like they can get through it on their own. And so encouraging their family to help see those.
And it's funny to me that oftentimes the veteran will see that or say that someone else needs it more than they do. And I think that is such a wonderful thing to hear, but I always try to remind them that they worked hard for what they did to provide for veterans and individuals to have, and they've earned that. And I want them to see that they've earned that help. You know, that's what it's there for. So, you know, we try to do our best to get them what they need.
That's wonderful. Dina, I appreciate the opportunity to work with you in my role at the foundation, all that you do for the Eastern Shore through Maryland's commitment to veterans. It's just really such a wonderful service that organization is providing, such personal, one-on-one service to those who have done so much for our community and for our country. And so I just thank you for the time, and I'll hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
You've been watching Community Foundation Spotlight. I'm Erica Joseph. We will look forward to seeing you next time.
Would you like to see your community organization or nonprofit group featured on PAC 14? To get started, contact us at 410-677-5014 or visit our website at www.pac14.org. PAC 14 is a great way to connect with your community.
The Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore's Women's Fund has been helping programs for women and girls on the Lower Eastern Shore for 5 years. We're celebrating our 5th anniversary this year. If you would like to join us, please contact the Community Foundation.